Gaming. 2016 Coca-Cola Zero League of Legends Champions Korea Summer Round 1. Well, that was a brief and fun intermission, Papa Smithy. Welcome back to the LCK here on OGN. We are heading into our second best of 3 of the night immediately. It will be Samsung going up against Longzhu. Samsung coming off a loss against SKT, their first of the season. We have some questions if anybody's going to be able to beat SKT. Samsung came somewhat close,
Sure.
but they're still looking good. They're still have beaten everybody else they played against. So coming into this series, we do expect them to take a win.
But to me, this is a kind of, if there was a subtitle, it would be a course correction series, because we just saw Samsung pick up their first loss and Longzhu pick up their first victory and look impressive doing it against ESC ever. So this is where you really double down. Was it Samsung being beaten by potentially the best team in the world and against SKT? Are they going to be able to match up? Because 6-11, at least on paper, doesn't necessarily look like it supports Samsung's playstyle, which seemed to be pretty figured out by SKT throughout the course of that very one-sided 2-0.
Yeah, I think that as we look at this, CuVee, as you say, may be a bit of a problem in the new 6-11 meta.
Maybe.
Samsung still here, sitting at 4-1, however, and they were flawless in both game and match score before lining up against SK Telecom. So not only the only match they lost, but the only games they lost came against SKT. Longzhu, as you're saying, though, came off that win against ESC, and for the first time this season actually looked somewhat coordinated.
So they brought back Fury. Emperor had played every series barring the first of the season. I wrote down some stats. In that series, Longzhu gave up 3 kills, 3 turrets, and 1 dragon in 2 games. What Longzhu took, 29 kills, 21 turrets, 7 dragons, and 2 barons. That's about as one-sided as you can ask for against a team where I would have thought ESC ever would come in the favorite. They've continued to struggle, it's worth noting, but that was really impressive. And particularly Fury, for the first time in Longzhu colors, actually looked really great.
Yeah. Well, he did have some good games on Jhin in the spring, but that was about it. Every other champion he looked really off on, including champions that he made his name on Samsung.
Lucian, for example.
Yeah, the Lucian, just not looking good. But this is going to be Fury going up against his old team. A bit of excitement because he did actually, of course, receive a ban for a lot of the spring season after some tampering went on between Samsung and TDK.
And he never came back the same. It's worth noting that he was by far the most impressive player when he played in the Samsung organization. And so far for Longzhu, barring one series, has been largely underwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have to see if that continues tonight. It will be Fury starting again, we should note. So they took that best-of-3 victory, and they're trying to run with that momentum.
No changes for either team.
Yeah, they did also play a lot of Swain. Swain and top late in both games, and we've seen Swain, but he has been a bit underwhelming for the most part, but Longzhu managing to make it work.
I mean, Expession actually profited on some very good TP wards that were put down. Longzhu's early game, in fact, their mechanics have always been, without question, they have very good players mechanically on their roster. It's been about the macro strategy, and that's why it was a notable data point that they look so clean beating ESC ever. And can they bring that momentum into this series against much tougher opposition in Samsung?
And here we go. It will be the Samsung lineup, as you've come to expect. No sign of Stitch or CoreJJ. CoreJJ has moved to the sub-support role for this season. And Longzhu Gaming taking Emperor out of the starting roster, replacing him with Fury. Their last best of 3 proved to be fruitful. Is Fury back on track now? He had such a beautiful year last year on Samsung, and ever since, of course, that ban took place, his temporary suspension, as I said, as a result of what happened between Samsung and TDK and Longzhu, came back, really failed to make a splash, but he still has been doing very well in solo queue. So we know the mechanics are there. It's just doesn't seem like he has his head in the game.
I mean, Longzhu, for the last couple of series, had 2 players who were dominating solo queue, in Fury and Crash. We still have not seen Crash make his re-debut on the champion stage, which for me is sad. Everyone knows him. Crash is...
I really love Crash.
He loves the triple kills into dying enemy red buffs.
I do love that. I just think Crash has such a high skill ceiling that I just want to see more of him. But he's definitely developing on the bench. No shame in starting Chaser, who has long time now been one of the better junglers here in Korea. Has started to get it together again, too, which is nice to see. We have to go back to Samsung for a little bit, though, because Ambition is quietly having a very good season. He actually is #1 in damage per minute out of all junglers, and also #1 in first blood contribution rate among all players. So he's really been standing out for his team.
He didn't have the best series against SKT, but no one did on his team. And you're right, he's been outstanding in general. The pickup of Ambition was a bit of a head scratcher. We thought maybe after CJ Entus, he really struggled towards the tail end of 2015 after a nice start as a jungler. We thought it might be over, but moving to Samsung has reinvigorated this player, and he led them well in spring, and it's only become better in summer. And the team has played as a 5-man unit. That's kind of the story, is that for CJ, he never got it together with his team. Even with Mad Life, they never really had the best synergy, despite being in the organization for such a long time, on different teams, but still same organization. And then you look at the spring season, still on Samsung, he was doing those solo invade missions and dying. The team has been on the same wavelength, and Crown, he's another person who's really doing it in terms of statistics. His DPM has been outstanding. That's the highest team percentage of team's damage at 33%, very close to 1/3 of his team's damage.
Yeah, not only in percentage, but also just in flat damage per minute. He's #1 in the league, and he's not taking up a lot of resources to do so either. So Crown has been absolutely amazing this season, definitely in contention for one of the top 3 mid players in this league. You combine that with the rookie and Ruler, who's actually been doing surprisingly well for a rookie, although we did see some cracks in his play against SKT, overextending.
And not mechanically. That's what's worth knowing. Is absolutely, he didn't know where to go after things started to go south, so he would just push up for farm. And as Bank said in his interview, he was just like, he shouldn't be getting away with this farm. Let's gank him. They took him down twice. He was held back. But his mechanics on Ezreal are not in doubt. Ezreal and Ashe by far have been his staples. So when we see a bit of an extended champion pool, maybe then we'll start to see champion pool issues. But for now, he's easily the best rookie that we've seen this season. He's been outstanding in his performance level. But if the team falls behind, maybe we will see him try to stick his head out, look for farm. It was worth knowing there was nowhere to find farm against SKT. Such was the advantage they were in.
Yeah. The other factor that we have to consider about Samsung, too, is that we've seen basically 2 strategies from them. One of them is a single target chain CC strategy, and they're very good at getting the proper chain CC, making sure that they pick off a target with champions like Elise and Varus and Ashe. And the second strategy has been a split push Fiora strategy. Now, the problem is that SKT beat both of these strategies. And do they have more depth? Because if they do, we haven't seen it.
And look, I would go so general as to say it was late game team fighting, which was their main strategy. They like to pull it to late. Their target selection, which is a lot like a pick comp, but their target selection with whatever comp was outstanding in a lot of those games. That was kind of found out because SKT just took it over before the late game team fighting could happen. And with the split push strategy, it hasn't been like the Fiora numbers have been impressive. Actually, 2-1, but a 0.9 KDA, less than 1 KDA on the Fiora for CuVee. But the thing is, they've been so controlled. They've been so good in their shot calling that it hasn't been about Fiora killing people. It's been about answering objectives and objective calls with superior calls of their own. So it's been more on Ambition's shot calling, the team's shot calling, over necessarily the Fiora. They've warped games. They've won the games. They've been controlled, and in general, they've been very good at playing to their win conditions. It's just, if you never get to the stage when you're strong, then your win conditions and how clear you are at playing to them just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, so we'll see what they've got on patch 6.11, but at the same time, Longzhu coming in, and this is a team that hasn't really had problems in the early game. In fact, they're #4 in the league in gold differential.
They were like this last season
minutes
as well. They're very good mechanical players.
Yeah, they've got their early game figured out to a certain degree, but when it comes to finishing, it kind of just all falls
So
apart.
would you say they can't seal the deal?
They cannot seal the deal. They're not like me, Papa Smithy. I seal every deal.
I read some competitive rulings about that.
I sealed so many deals, man. All right. Well, we'll be Vladimir and Nidalee, the first bans here, in conjunction with the Swain ban actually coming out from Samsung.
The Swain actually respected from Expession now. They manufactured scenarios where Swain can get into the backline and do a lot of damage. Seems to be an Expession special. There were Swain nerfs on 6.11, so people have been debating just how strong that pick is. But for now, it's going to see the respect bans, and let's see what's available.
Ryze, Kindred.
Ryze and Kindred do seem to really come forward as the biggest picks available. We've seen Karma priority too. Karma is available, but Rek'Sai is the reach from Samsung.
Well, that has been a really staple jungler from Ambition because he's a very cerebral jungler. Like you say, that shock calling. So if you can get that information with the Tremor Sense in the late game, it does help quite a bit in controlling objectives. But what do you give up for it, Papa Smithy? It's Karma and Ryze.
So the Turbo Ryze could happen here. Karma movement
God.
speed for Ryze to get into the backline. Also, when you think about the Rek'Sai, good for late game team fights, choosing the right ones. Good also if you're setting up a split push to give you information about where you can extend while that Fiora is split pushing. So it works really well in both scenarios for Samsung.
And it looks like we're heading back to single target CC territory with the Braum and the Ashe blind picks here.
Where will Longzhu go with their drafts? So much power in the late game, and also a Karma that, for all we know, could be the mid lane pick. Expession has played Ryze in the top lane through the course of his career pretty consistently. The biggest pick for Fury has been Jhin, which is available in this game.
The question is, does he have enough peel to actually justify that pickup here? And I think that you're going to be better off with a Karma Sivir in this situation, and we may just see the Hecarim come in from Chaser.
I guess people were watching LPL in the last weekend and just been tinkering with that Hecarim pick.
They may also have been scrimming the Chinese teams.
That's true.
That does happen a lot.
That is a very true point, but only being flashed by Coco, not locked in with the Gragas selection, which could be jungle. We saw Beyond carrying on MVP from the jungle, and Ixu played it in the top lane yesterday. So
I mean, this is a great draft from Longzhu. Basically, they flexed 3 positions already, and how do you respond to that if you're Samsung? Could go with something very safe, wave clear in the mid lane.
They're going to go super safe in this particular game. Will they visit the Ekko, though? Because we saw Ekko win yesterday, but not necessarily be convinced by the Ekko.
I was not convinced, Papa Smithy, and it was, I think, a pretty desperate attempt by Trace. Now, they did win that game, it has to be said, but the Ekko looked unsteady at best.
Well, he lost laning phase to a Trundle, which lets you know how far Ekko has fallen. What we basically said is with all the base values nerfed over multiple patches, the risk-reward of running that Ekko without lane dominance has kind of gone away. So we were thinking people would pivot away, and CuVee, one of the question marks we do have is his champion pool. So if he's still visiting Ekkoville, as we'll call it, I guess, for this particular metaphor, it's a little bit worrying for Samsung.
And it's going to lock in, Papa Smithy, so Ekko will be the pick here in spite of all those nerfs on 6-11.
And now let's stop the flexes. What are we actually doing here, Longzhu? We have no idea.
They're at the beach. They just got to flex a little, you know?
The flexing's looking pretty good, but they need to solidify. Oh, boy.
Wow. That would be, I think that is just a troll hover right there from Fiora. I don't think we're actually going to be seeing a Fiora with this particular composition.
I'm going to squint at it and hope it goes away.
Yeah,
it still looks like a Fiora from here, Monty. Can you confirm?
Now,
still a Fiora?
Now this does, all right.
Here we go. Here we go. All right. All right.
Old Expession pick, actually. So finally, SK Telecom, Duke playing that Irelia to great effect, and now Expession going to be taking it. This is going to set up a possible 1-3-1 situation, and you know, honestly, for Longzhu, we didn't really touch on this meta and them, but Expession has long been a deep lover of the split push Irelia and Jax.
The Jax especially, one of his most famous picks, and I really like it. If you think about the matchup that Ekko was supposed to struggle in, we did see a Fiora lose lane to Ekko, but that was Duke, of course. It's all about the all-in from the Fiora, and the Irelia is very much going to be of the same flavor, so I really fancy Irelia in this laning phase against Ekko, and you talked about it in the late game, the 1-3-1, itemizing against Ryze and Irelia is going to be just, it's going to be pandemonium trying to put together any sort of items to be able to answer what could be a really fierce split push from Longzhu, but they have to get through the early game to get to those points, and expect the junglers to really heavily visit the top lane, because it's Triforce top laners that need to buy that item. They can't just build Swifties and roam around, so expect Expession to get plenty of attention.
Absolutely, and we could definitely see a lane swap attempt here from Samsung as a way to mitigate that. Samsung, they can, at least in this game, do some work with tower diving. We can see possibility of the Ekko flanks on the tower. They do have that power with the initiation from the arrow and the damage from the Viktor to really just melt somebody and then take the objective immediately thereafter. So Samsung may be trying to go for a few of those plays, but Expession's back, baby, and it will be on Irelia in this game. I am excited to see this one. Longzhu with, honestly, just a ridiculous power pick of a draft.
Oh, they have so much power, but Samsung are on comfort, so comfort versus power. It's going to be fun to see.
It will be indeed. All right, game one coming right up.
Ocean Drake is going to be your first spawn in this game. Samsung versus Longzhu.
Yes, it will be. So Samsung actually going for a deep invade here, something that we rarely see in Korea. Deep wards on that top side. Chaser going to give a chuckle to Ambition. Ambition will dance in response. It's a natural order of things. That's what I do when I see somebody laugh.
So in that time, I looked up the stats for
Really,
good old
no response to that.
Expession. No response. I got stats to talk about Monte Cristo. 8 and 5. Third most played of all time is the Irelia, only behind the aforementioned Jax and also the Rumble for Expession.
Yep. Very famous player when it comes to split pushing. For those of you who don't know his history, going back to 2012, 2013 era, and did take a break from competitive play for about a year and a half.
Some great players have had holidays. Prey also had quite the vacation away from competitive play.
He did have a year off. Tigers came back and picked him up, and it has proved pretty damn good for them, you have to say.
Except they haven't won anything.
Well, you know what? I think I'd rather take all those second places than be in a different region and never take a second place or really any kind of international prestige.
I see what you're getting at there.
Sometimes there's a silver lining to the silver medal, Papa Smithy, as I like to say.
Fair enough.
From this point forward.
That's one of your new go-tos?
I'm just going to invent expressions left and right.
Well, saw Samsung actually take the enemy Raptors, then go to lane, so bit of experience over to the Ashe. Expession was in lane early, so got half a level himself. With jungle follows and just how experience works now, it's very hard to get experience onto your solo laners in a lane swap, so half a level is actually pretty decent for Expession without taking anything from the jungle.
Certainly is, and this lane swap should be a pretty nice bonus here for the likes of Samsung. Chaser will be taking out a quick Scuttle Crab. Should give them some information after the lane swap. So here we go. Samsung first to the turret by just a little bit, and Ocean Drake up first. So will they be able to swap back and take this one up? Is Longzhu going to try and match lanes after the first turret goes down? It would put Expession into a possible perilous situation where he might have to overextend.
You can see that with the tempo of the lane swap turret taking being very ideal or very even, that extra experience for Expession got him level 2 earlier. CuVee just managed it as the extra minion wave came to the turret, so about half a level advantage for Expession. Looking for a turret dive.
Wow, and I thought those turret dives would be coming from Samsung, but not immediately. Coco actually has to burn his flash as Crown pinches him with the gravity field between the wall and the turret. Coco there.
Really aggressive move from Ambition in particular. So a thing you can do when vertical jungling is enabled and you're able to come from that angle. So Coco has to flash, and suddenly Ryze was always one of these champions that was under fear of turret dive, and with the return of Rek'Sai, one of the most reliable turret divers when it comes to the pop-up CC, Coco already has to respect in the mid lane.
See, you call it vertical jungling, but since everything is at a 45-degree angle in Summoner's Rift, couldn't we also call it horizontal jungling? It's actually equally horizontal and vertical. I prefer to call it...
You're being cruel here.
...perpendicular jungling, because it's perpendicular to the way you normally go.
There's a top quadrant and a bottom quadrant.
You mean a top half and a bottom half?
Yes. I do. We can all use fancy words over here. There's so much color.
Well, Papa, I think I just won our geometry competition.
That was a spurious discussion, Monte Cristo. We've got to be careful. I'm going to start saying words that I've only actually seen written, never actually said out loud.
Oh boy.
It's probably among the first handful of times I've said spurious out loud.
It also wasn't spurious, but that's okay, because it was actually a pretty factual, accurate conversation based on. You're gonna lose to me in geometry and lose to me in English, Papa Smithy. Don't do it.
My geometry's not bad. I'm more of an algebra man, though.
All right, there we go.
I can solve for X pretty well. X is SKT, by the way.
Well, you probably should move into full-time coaching then, because you may be the only human alive who can solve for X.
Fair. Well, it's going to be the double turret take. We saw answering rotations yesterday where we saw teams swap back, specifically that was a smart rotation with an Ezreal to look for the 2v2 after the first turrets went down. So it was Tia versus Cull in the laning matchup. It's going to be both outer turrets down, meaning that I guess Expession is less incentivized for this because he's not quite as able to open up space. Expession needs a minion to Blade Surge too, whereas CuVee is able to dash around.
Yeah, looking just about dead even for our top laners. And
look at that lead, actually. There's only one lead that I can really see. It's 400 gold lead for Ambition in the jungle. That's actually impressive that he's just had access to, seems like a camp and a half over Chaser.
Ambition has been always, since his change over to the jungle, really a great at pathing, great at maximizing his farm. He usually comes out with very high gold totals in the games that he plays in. And to his credit, like I said earlier, he's been translating that into damage. He is the highest damage per minute jungler in the entire league right now. So he has been showing up when it comes to these team fights and making sure that that gold turns into actual effects on the map.
Late game team fighting was never in question. Was always the master of that from the mid lane or the jungle. But Rek'Sai's not quite Graves when it comes to being able to buy items to scale into the late game. We'll have her role for sure though, but it's a little bit different from Ambition.
Fury and Pure going hard on the tier 2 as you see Chaser drop into the lane to give a helping hand. Meanwhile, Ambition not going to be there, and it will be to Ekko coming down to assist instead. Expession not too happy to take a look at that turret going down, but Longzhu may have a good opportunity to take a first Drake here.
Ocean Drake is very relevant this early in the game if you can pick it up. The regen stats for junglers and supports in particular can really be important. It allows you to get those extra camps before you have to recall, because you still get that regen when you're in combat against minions and monsters.
Samsung is going to stick around. Now they're trying to set up a gank on Crown instead of just going for the Drake. They do have great pink wards there to make sure that there's not going to be any foul play from the likes of Samsung. Looks like Crown got that one.
We see Longzhu turn on to the Drake. Expession has not much to show for himself. Wow, a Cull is one of the first investments, which if he continues to be well held, if we continue to see junglers path around Irelia's lane, just that 400 gold investment may even further delay Trinity Force.
It really depends on what he can do up here with this freeze.
Well, this says I want to farm. I really want to farm. I'm not interested in fighting. Trinity Force and Boots too. Let's go.
CuVee goes for the much more important combat stats early with the Dark Seal.
And it has a stacking game of its own with the Dark Seal, but the Balmy Cinder is actual early game power. More than Expession was able to muster up.
Dark Seal great with the Corrupting Potion in extended trades, however. And we do have Ambition just on that top side. Great wards there set up for CuVee so he can farm deep against this Irelia, and they're going to have to deal with some pressure now down on the bottom side. Chaser hops over the back of the wall, and here comes a TP. Expession coming in. Fury with that Sivir ultimate. It's going to be responded, but not early enough. Pure just going to go right in onto this one. First blood over to Pure, and that teleport is immediately canceled as Coco shows up with the TP as well. And that means a couple of kills, but they give up a lot of pressure on the mid lane for this one.
So Longzhu were clearly watching those VODs of the SK Telecom versus Samsung series. Another situation where Ruler and his support Wraith were a little bit too overextended after both turrets were down. Sivir pops ult, no answering play available. Sivir Karma has so much movement speed the moment that Fury hits level 6, and this also gets Expession some gold as well, but worth noting the first kill goes over to Karma, which is certainly not ideal.
Yeah, they get one onto Ryze at least. It was also a 5-man commitment to the bottom side when there was no tower and there was no Drake to take after. So the punishment is definitely there. Samsung actually still holds a gold lead thanks to taking down the mid lane turret. And this really opens up the map for Samsung. I mean, They already have those 4 turrets down. CuVee getting low, though, and that's just going to be a solo kill. Expession powers through the parallel convergence. CuVee only level 5, Expession with a level 6 all in.
And we talked about CuVee maybe falling away with 6-11. It's obviously still early days, but the fact that he channeled his teleport late, cancelled it, then gets solo killed by the Irelia.
Well, I think he should have canceled that teleport, to be fair.
I agree, but the channeling of the late is what you have to talk about. The channel was already completed by Expession before CuVee was able to realistically apply his own teleport, and then getting solo killed is, to the nth degree, a top lane advantage to Longzhu.
So the 1-3-1 getting set up pretty nicely. Expession with a farm advantage, 1-0 and 2. And the Ryze with an early kill also. This is definitely accelerating the pace of the game for Longzhu as they turn on to this Rift Herald right now. Pinged out, but it's going to be too late. Expession gets this one too. It's going to be bad. And guess what? He gets it.
Yep. Has the dagger into the Stinger, also in the inventory, so going to be super sticky with all that extra movement speed and the E to be able to get those true damage trades in. And Ninja Tabi's not going to protect you against the true damage from the hit end style, which has been the max so far. We'll confirm that the next time they hover over Irelia, but
I mean, it really should be at this
for
matchup.
a long time it was E, just because the base damage was quite high, and in general the utility of having the longer stun duration. But with Stinger now entering the field as an item path second for the Irelia, although we've seen lots of people disagree, we're actually going to see Berserker Greaves into the Sheen, so it's still not going to be the dagger, but Berserker Greaves saw a buff this patch. 35% attack speed is the same as what Stinger now provides, because that was actually adjusted down from 50%.
Yeah, you have to think that actually, yes, it delays the Trinity Force, but Berserker Greaves is such a great immediate power spike.
Berserker Greaves
Stinger.
Phage, I mean,
yeah,
already
huge.
getting a solo kill. Good luck pushing up lane now if you're CuVee.
Yeah, you can't run away from that combination.
Irelia can really warp games, Monte Cristo, when she's ahead, because quickly you're going to get to the scenario where CuVee won't be able to enter lane against the Irelia. They don't have a teleport mid laner, and the experience for non-smite champions when they try to jungle has also been lessened, so finding CS farm experience, now not a trivial problem for CuVee, who is on the Ekko. It's not Maokai. He can't just make plays everywhere, most likely with this Ekko. So suddenly, the headaches start to open up for Samsung.
Indeed. Longzhu testing the jungle right there. We did see an attempt at a red buff steal by Chaser, but ended up being secured by Ambition. Clearing out some wards in the river right now as the timer ticks down on the next Drake buff.
Samsung have basically had to use all their resources to start a freeze for CuVee in the bot. Expession already has one in top and also has something like the Cull to really get extra investment out of this farming phase. So Longzhu will look to answer this attempted freeze.
Oh, wow. Great play on the flash there by Chaser. Straight into Coco's Rune Prison. Good night, sweet CuVee.
Bit of volleyball action there.
Good play. Crown will take the blue buff, and with Rek'Sai on the opposite side of the map, not a lot of counterplay available. Chaser showing up out of the blue.
And you just continue to do that, and now just nowhere for CuVee to go. He held onto his flash, so now he can slightly overextend in lanes. But again, the bigger issue is how do they deal with Expession farming up confidence. He's going to push out his lane because Dragon is spawning, and he wants to get a good teleport or item timing in if he's able to.
Yeah, great vision control from Longzhu in the bottom side jungle of Samsung. And it is a bit of a vision battle back right now as Samsung doesn't want to give this Drake up. A couple pink wards going down, and Ambition is going to set up a tunnel. There's a Cloud Drake, so not the biggest priority.
CuVee will try to enter lane, but for now smartly hanging back as far as possible. Really aggressive pink ward in that lane brush. Gives Expession full information, and Longzhu as a result, full information about their options as the Cloud Drake spawns. Minion waves exactly where Longzhu want them as they turn onto this dragon.
Now they got a little bit of movement on that bottom one, but definitely getting there. They still lack that mid lane turret though, which doesn't help them in this scenario. CuVee trying to clear out this minion wave that You see Expession set up. Expession retreats into the jungle. Look how many people are coming topside, though, just to try and kill him. And he's going to try and actually TP out of this. The arrow's going to miss. He's not going to get out, though. Nice knock up there. Wraith with the ult over the wall to make sure that that TP didn't finish. And now Expession getting beaten down slowly, finished off with the Ekko ultimate. Wraith with a really heads-up play on that TP.
Yeah, knew the range of the ultimate so well to be able to get the cancel onto the teleport. CuVee, importantly, now will be only a couple of 100 golds away from finishing the Sunfire Cape and actually being able to battle before all the item timings come in for the Trinity Force on Expession.
Bad part for the likes of Samsung is that they did lose the Drake, but only a Cloud Drake, and they at least stymied the snowball a little bit from Expession in that top side, which probably is honestly a better trade for them.
Definitely. They would be in a scenario increasingly where Irelia can split push. Irelia's teleport flanks are so strong because you just run at the AD carry and do such damage and have CC that Ashe can really do nothing against a champion like Irelia at best of times. And when that Irelia is snowballed, it just becomes a massive headache for Samsung.
Switching it up right now, Coco assigned to the top lane, considering he still has a TP. He will be the one matched up against CuVee.
The headaches are real for this Irelia, because if CuVee cannot match the Irelia, Ashe certainly can't enter lane against Irelia. Viktor is certainly not the champion to enter lane. No real good other options. They need the duo system. We cannot get solo farm onto Ashe because Irelia will just kill you.
Expession waiting that one out before hitting the Blade Surge to begin clearing out the wave. Ruler and Wraith on their way back down to the bottom side now. As long as the support is there, the Ashe should be A-okay. Expession not with any kind of armor yet. And CuVee, though, just getting soloed by Coco right now, and he's going to double back, but that may not be enough. Flash used. It looks like Coco doesn't want to flash after that one to try and secure the kill. Didn't have wards in that jungle. With a pink ward at the tri-brush, dangerous to face check.
Definitely still take that as a big win. Speaking of face checks, Wraith and Chaser find themselves as we're looking for this vision battle around the Drake area. Of course, no Drake on the map right now. See that Irelia is very close to finishing off the Cull stacks at 20-something at the moment.
Getting there. Little bit by little bit.
Second item is always really interesting to track from Irelia's. Wit's End saw a buff on this patch, but certainly hasn't necessarily got to the point where it'll be considered unless you're really snowballing. Trinity Force and Guardian Angel were always that core duo for an Irelia, but Frozen Heart was the pickup we saw yesterday, and that certainly gets some value, especially against Azir comps. Just have to be magic resist from Expession this time around.
Interesting that they're already assigning Expession back into that top side when we take a look at CuVee's build, and he's put that emphasis, of course, on the Sunfire Cape very early on. And especially with Expession having about a minute and a half left on his TP, this may not be ideal for Longzhu.
Sunfire Cape. At this point, though, when the component parts are there, the Sunfire should mean even trades. When the Trinity Force is complete, with a 20% CDR especially, another scenario where CuVee really can't hope to enter lane against Irelia. It's fun to see these. It's really cool to see champions like Irelia come out because it warps the game. You cannot have those same scenarios where Maokai's doing just fine, getting a bit of farm here and there. Irelia either gets the farm and is a massive raid boss, or becomes just a point of weakness that you rotate around. So, haven't seen this meta for a long time, but it makes for really exciting mid-game plays.
Longzhu here, trying to play around that Irelia's strength in the top side. And meanwhile, Samsung just going to answer with cross-map objectives right now. So Samsung happy to be not fighting for the moment and playing around Coco, considering they knew Expession's TP was down up until very recently.
Playing around their vision as well. Pink ward invested, and other wards meant that that was the only area that Longzhu could walk around. Just a couple of moments ago, Coco couldn't look for aggressive play in that area because they had no vision, but both teams playing around their power. Cull, I believe, 5 CS away from being able to be put in for the Irelia, and wow, Expession look really posturing for an aggressive turret dive.
Just want to zone some people out right now. Downey's actually going to go for the dive itself. There's the arrow, hits Expession, and there's the Chaos Storm right on top of it. Ambition flanking, can't get a good knock up.
Karma Sivir.
Yeah.
Vroom.
Backs off. instantly there. And of course, Irelia with her passive, not exactly the champion you want to hit with that arrow.
I mean, Trinity Force only means that she's on the squishier side, especially compared to a lane opponent this time in CuVee. So bursting her down was certainly something you'd love to do. Viktor was able to walk up, fly full combo, but not enough damage yet. Expession really wants to get those last 5 stacks of the cult, cash it in, get closer to what I imagine will be some magic resist.
Yeah, especially if he will keep splitting against that Ekko, has to deal with the Ekko abilities and the Sunfire Cape damage. Vision wants this one, Spell Shield is up, can't find a knockup. Pure with the shield speed boost will get away. Crown thinking he may have been able to follow with the slow from the Ryze, but can't quite get in range.
Coco's very much hit his timings, already got the transformation on the Archangels into Seraph's Embrace. Plenty of gold as well in the inventory, so Coco with those 2 extra kills is on point to be an unkillable Ryze, and because he's snowballing, happy to just invest towards the Void Staff and delay Guardian Angel to a 4th item.
Cowl will be the item for Expession, alongside a cloth armor. A bit more durability against Ruler in some of these team fights. Ruler not really held back though, already 2 items on the Ashe, so you will at least have some wave clear, but can't really move into the side lane, and the 1-3-1 split push is going to be online very soon for the likes of Longzhu, and there's not a great response that Samsung's going to be able to give.
Yeah, the Ryze being ahead and the Irelia hitting her timings means a 2-pronged assault that Samsung just doesn't have answers for. They don't have the summoners to answer in terms of double teleport. They don't have the champions to enter lane against Irelia and Ryze. So you have to feel like 22 to 35 minutes especially. Few answers available. Chaser's looking aggressive.
Yeah, Chaser does just get his barrel bounced back off the Unbreakable, so no engage found there. Hits everybody on Samsung back. And Longzhu, while they can do the 1-3-1, they actually have to push into inhibitor turrets right now, which is pretty awkward. Another Cloud Drake up. So they don't really have a way to actually apply pressure this early in the game, especially when the mid lane turret's still up and they can't really get those deep wards to protect their split pushers.
They do actually have a little bit of threat of Baron damage. They don't really have enough armor on their jungler probably to do it, but outside chance with Ryze, Irelia, Sivir that you could take out a Baron. So the moment that they saw Samsung cheating towards the bot side and the Dragon, they just walked towards Baron and put the Fear of God into Samsung. Glacial Shroud, so bit of armor and magic resist. And wow, Longzhu really are walking back towards the Baron. They're going to start it.
Yeah, they're just going to go for it right now. Everyone from Samsung has to come back and peel away. Hawk shot followed by a nice Valentine's Day arrow soaring by the Baron, but doesn't find any love this time.
And Ambition, even though he didn't have any tunnels near Baron, he was the steadying person. He realized the moment the Hawk shot and thus the arrow came through, they could probably get the free objective, and they do get the Cloud Drake to win the war in terms of picking up something in that particular time.
Also, Longzhu didn't necessarily know that he didn't have any tunnels over there, so
sure,
you have to play the respect of your team, and Longzhu had no wards in that top jungle.
Expession going to be very close to 40% CDR, 30% from items now, with Trinity Force giving 20%. Glacial Shroud, obviously, the other 10.
Riot really did go CDR happy after 6.9.
You say that, but it just feels like increasingly every item gets CDR to the point where tanks had 40% for the whole of 2016, and now it seems like every role has 40% all the time. 80 carries at the start of the year for the first time ever got 40% CDR, and it affected balance because you never balanced around an 80 carry having 40% CDR till Essence Reaver was reintroduced.
This is that point where you just remove CDR from the game and lower all ability cooldowns, but Fury gonna flash out of that, turns right around. Actually, Pure eats an arrow. Ambition, the nice knockup. They may take out Pure right here. Good ult, knocking up Pure on the backside. Chaser focused now. Coco has to run out, but he's gonna find some members at a choke point, and here comes Irelia. Not gonna walk through the gravity field, however. Coco wants to get a root down, does hit CuVee. Fury there trying to follow up, gets the auto attacks. Chrono Break back in, gets the flash out. So it looks like Samsung will successfully disengage. no one goes down.
Summoner trade actually goes over to Samsung. The CuVee used his flash, but Fury and Pure used all their summoners. So in that particular skirmish, even with Irelia and Ryze online, because of how the fight started, Samsung invested less and got more. So little win for them.
Still have a TP advantage, though, with Coco, should they want it. And they are certainly interested in going for this Baron. They will end up taking out that ward. And it's time to hide on Bush, but that's not really going to work against a Rek'Sai, who already has wards and vision on you.
I mean, it's not just Rek'Sai, it's Ashe as well.
Yeah.
They have a lot of tools to check, and that's not even with blue trinkets coming under consideration. Viktor has one available, so Baron bait with so low armor is just not a possibility. If Chaser had gone for, say, a dead man's plate, maybe you have someone who can truly tank Baron, but flattering to deceive at this point. Void Staff online for Coco. It's the Guardian Angel, I think, that really changes how Longzhu can position. Right now, Expession doesn't have enough tank items to actually dive as hard as she wants to, the Irelia. And Coco has to be, again, pretty conservative in his positioning before GA allows him to just say, screw it all, and dive in.
Now, we come to a very odd point in this game, though, where all of the outer and inner side lane turrets were removed very early on as a result of these pushes, and we're left with 2 turrets still in the mid lane for Samsung and 1 for Longzhu, but it does mean that no one can actually really do anything on the map at the moment. Crown gonna get cute and push a Chaos Storm around. Chaser body slams his way out of it.
I like to think of it as idiot genius from the side of Samsung, because they've all these turrets being down means that the 1-3-1 is kind of answered by the fact that there's nothing to 1-3-1.
No, there's nothing to 1-3-1, especially when the mid turret is still up in tier 1. They can't get the wards into 1-3-1 right now, so Longzhu is actually left with really not a whole lot they can do besides fight over this next Infernal Drake that will be spawning.
It's either next level genius or just a happy coincidence that Samsung's like, well, we'll take this. It's pretty good, actually.
Coco is going to miss his Q, and CuVee can't fight that at all. So gets his stun on the parallel convergence and then has to recall. CuVee suffering quite a bit.
It's why you see Longzhu tumbling on the Baron. It's the one objective on the map at present with Dragon off the map that they could try and force something around.
Yeah, I think you just wait for the Infernal Drake, though. You can play that. You can definitely afford to play the long game if you're Longzhu here.
Irelia, Ryze, Sivir also a late game damage beast in her own right.
Ambition on the prowl around that. Top rivers, plenty of wards placed here in favor of Samsung.
A stanza like this has been commonplace in Samsung games this season. They drafted the Rek'Sai very early. The Ashe also gives them information. They have so much information about Longzhu's moves, and we've outlined it a couple of times. Longzhu doesn't have the obvious objectives to 1-3-1 with their double TP advantage that a standstill in some ways plays into Samsung's hands. They have been better at late game fighting than basically every team in the league outside of SKT, who admittedly hasn't late game team fought because they just never got to a late game. And Longzhu will take it because they have the champions, but it's going to really be a lot of information for us as viewers to find out, do Longzhu have the shot calling in the late game to complement the drafts that they've put together?
Historically, the answer has been no.
Certainly.
But they were also gifted just a ridiculous draft here, you have to admit. We've never seen really teams pick up these specific 4 champions before in Sivir, Karma, Irelia, and Ryze, all of which are major power picks.
Good luck kiting away from Sivir, Karma, Ryze.
Yeah, not going to happen. Especially when there's an Irelia getting in your back and slowing and or stunning you.
I mean, you just think about the late game, as we see Samsung and Longzhu put out love taps around this Infernal Drake. The moment Guardian Angel's there, you can flash aggressively to get the root.
Sees Ruler in that backline, watches him walk into the brush. Parallel convergence is down. Arrow's going to hit Chaser. Try and burn down this Infernal Drake. It does get releashed, though. Ruler keeps his eyes on Expession's Irelia. He's seen in that brush. Will try and clear out that ward. Pink ward in the brush there for Longzhu. It is secured by Chaser. Not a good smite there coming in from Samsung. So Longzhu gets what they want, the Infernal Drake, but they can't actually seal the deal.
Pretty big mistake from Ambition. He was a level up, so should have been able to hit. It was at 818 HP, so it looks like he was about 60 HP short with the smite. was able to be confirmed by Chaser, and an Infernal Drake to pile onto the draft they got is just absolutely the cherry on top.
And there's not really going to be a chance at all, considering the Elder Dragon is up next for Samsung to pick up an Infernal Drake of their own. So you have to deal with the fact that Longzhu is going to have that 8% more damage, and there's not going to be a response possible from the side of Samsung.
Again, no guarantees because of Longzhu's reputation at choking in the late game, of not being on the same page in team fights in the late games, that everything comes together. But with this draft, it feels like it's almost idiot-proof.
Almost.
The Idiot's Guide to late game. Irelia, Ryze, Sivir, Karma.
Is it Longzhu proof though? That's going to be the question.
Oh.
The Longzhu proof draft.
It's just so much power, and Longzhu looked better with this lineup. They haven't been fielding, so for a couple of reasons, we can remain optimistic about Longzhu. They're 1,000 gold up and winning the game also.
That's a great reason to be optimistic about Longzhu.
But isn't it great that Longzhu might be a team that we can look to their fixtures and think, wow, that could be close, or wow, they could be a contender. Speaking of contending.
And there's the W right onto Ambition from Ryze. They're going to try and slow it up. And Volley with the Death Ray actually nearly takes out Pure. Ambition somehow slides underneath the terrain with the tunnel and actually manages to escape from all of that. Enough defensive stats to make it out of harm's way, just using his flash. No summoners burned on the side of Longzhu, however, as they collapse.
That's the thing, they didn't invest any summoners, and Ambition having no flash means that, of course, Rek'Sai in a team fight going to be not even able to close the distance onto a carry at the best of times. Going to be purely peeling with the Unburrow, so it is a big cost, but obviously the life would have probably meant Baron for Longzhu.
Irelia actually finishing up the Spirit Visage. They're getting both the Cloak and the Glacial Shroud. The question, what is Ambition going to do next? Is he going to complete the Frozen Heart or buy a GA straight up? I got my answer, Bob Smithy, immediately.
That is a big investment also out of nowhere. So clearly was sitting on a lot of gold as they tried to make that pick. Now this is ultimately Irelia running at Ashe, the team fight. Ashe will be by far the person who will be singled out. No QSS. Actually, sorry, Mercurial Scimitar is completed, but that's not going to be enough. We'll first see the flash root from Coco, who has his Guardian Angel also. And the moment that's cleansed away, Irelia has free reign to run at the Ashe. All the CC in the world. Very, very tough to slow down an Irelia.
A lot of pink wards taken out at the top side by Samsung right now. Continue their march forward down the mid lane.
They want to force Irelia to teleport defensively, or Ryze, whichever they will take.
Samsung has done an extremely good job of keeping this mid lane turret up. That is the one thing that's prevented Longzhu from really playing out their strategy correctly.
Now, they haven't been allowed to back just yet. Only Braum is channeling the recall. Expession has already used the ultimate though, so doesn't have the ability to push his minions super fast. And CuVee is going to walk down, so we're talking about 3, 4, 5 auto attacks, but maybe not enough. Can it continue going though, Expession?
Zips out of the parallel convergence. No real harm. And now the counter push coming in. They're going to dive this one again though. Chaser just tossing the explosive cask straight into Unbreakable.
Party cask.
I don't really understand why he keeps doing that. He sees Unbreakable up, still starts going for the body slam explosive cask engage.
Longzhu do have one thing to show for their early game, and that has been the dragons. Infernal Drake spawns in a minute and a half. Baron also on the map.
Should be an Elder Dragon.
Elder Drake, sorry, yep, that's what I meant. Infernal feels like Elder sometimes. A lot of power there.
There's a lot of fire, you know, in both of them. You get to see the fire with the Elder Drake.
This is actually an interesting scenario, because honestly, Samsung would probably take Baron over the Infernal Drake.
Samsung CuVee with a very awkward teleport. That is going to be absolutely devastating to them. Unless they can cut up through the river and try and get Coco and Pure immediately.
There are no pick teleports from an Ekko onto Sivir Karma.
No,
that just
absolutely not. Very bizarre decision from CuVee.
And now you just rush at this inhibitor turret, and if you had full information about the other 4 members' whereabouts, you just dive roll up, but you do not have that as Expession, so you cannot dive the Ashe, tempting as it might be.
But you can't sit in that bush and just keep pushing the waves relentlessly. Now that they have that mid lane turret down, the control over Baron is magnified for Longzhu.
This is where Irelia will start to pick up unanswered CS. No sign of a Flame Horizon, actually only 35 CS between the laners. Probably sitting on another nice mountain of gold as Expession. Baron has been the almost battleground for about 15 minutes, literally since it spawned, but no team has been realistically able to start it.
CuVee back to push this lane in top, and they're getting close to just pulling the trigger from Expession and going all in for this Baron. If they keep seeing CuVee down there, that's exactly what's going to result from Samsung's decision-making, and they're going to go for it.
There's no real way for the cancel the teleport. Requires a lot of setup. CuVee starts walking. It's going to take a while to get there. Baron at 6,000.
Yeah, and there's the TP. Expession coming in on the left-hand side. Volley's going to hit him. Pure eats the arrow. Wraith follows it up with the Glacial Fissure, but they're going to pull off, so Longzhu not going to commit to that Baron. They looked for the turn, and CuVee manages to walk all the way from the bottom side of the map as Longzhu gets cold feet.
And they were really hesitant to pull the damage on DPS. They pulled off very early. Most teams will pull off at 2,000, 3,000 health. They pulled off at 6,000, bought enough time with the arrow to cancel the advantage of the teleport, and CuVee got there just in time.
Yeah, really want to use these zones. Gravity Field and Parallel Convergence. Ambition playing the backside, preventing any kind of engage by threatening the knock-up. Chaser coming in again. Still has the Explosive Cask this time, though. Didn't just toss it into the Unbreakable. And now here we go. Will be the Unbreakable coming out, or the Explosive Cask, rather, isolating CuVee on the flank. Is a 1 for 0 now for Longzhu, but they have been chunked pretty low.
They're probably too low to take the Baron, even though Coco and Expession, with all this gold, are near full health with Guardian Angels. They want more kills, and they're going to look hard.
They have Crown flashing out of that one, immediately puts down the Gravity Field. Chaser caught up in the Gravity Field right now. Crown still trying to kite this out, but Expession already on the back line. Randuin's has been popped. Ambition rooted by the Ryze, has to tunnel under into the Raptor Pit. Longzhu pick up another kill, but it's only on to Wraith.
And Ambition has tunnels around this Baron to ult into the moment that he tunnels back. Will he have enough time, though? Still backing. 7,000 health, close to 5,000. Rek'Sai will be there. There is the outside chance of a steal, but no, it's falling too low. 5 members. Going to be Baron to Longzhu.
Ambition thought better of that one. Ruler and Crown not able to participate in that fight. Ambition getting there a little late. Let's take a look at that replay.
So Chaser for once holds the Explosive Cast. He should have just flash ulted at some point, but he keeps holding onto the flash. Eventually just goes for the body slam. Hits CuVee, gets a mini stun against a wall, but that's the minimum. Beyond, for example, on the Gragas, pulled off some amazing casts when we saw him, but Chaser doesn't seem comfortable on the Gragas.
No, there was definitely better placement. He actually could have knocked CuVee and Ambition out there, but kind of botched it.
He used the flash in this case with the body slam, and while they pick up a single kill, you mentioned it, was only onto the support. It did turn into a Baron. Sivir's ult was already up again. Short is the cooldown at this point in the game, but feels like Longzhu keep getting the minimum, which means that Samsung, who should be out of it, are still in touching distance.
Yeah, they've been at least team fighting very well. And the fact that they have been tenaciously holding on to their mid turrets been a big point of contention in this game, but one that Samsung has successfully capitalized on. Expession comes in, taps him with the Equilibrium Strike. Dodges right back out. So here comes the setup, and there's the Sivir ult. Can they catch anybody? Expession goes right back in onto the back line. Parallel converges down. Expession has been stunned up in the front line. Fury now the target. Fury burning with the Chaos Storm. He's going to fall. Meanwhile, Ruler kiting out Expession right here. It's a bit of a disaster for Longzhu, but can they turn it around? Coco still up, still alive. Expession gets the GA and nearly takes out Ruler. Trying to chase down Chaser right now. Expession wants to get these blade surges off. Chaser moves forward, body slam with the barrel roll, and at the end, it's just a 1v1, or 1 for 1 rather. Crown and Fury both falling, but the Baron buff still rolling for the likes of Longzhu.
Samsung team fights so well despite the late game power shots, despite the Irelia Ryze. Never were they able to open up on the backline the moment Expession dived in to do so. He was well DPS down. Credit to Ruler, able to navigate the fight, do damage on an Ashe. So often we see a mobile 80 carry like Ashe get kited out and not be able to do any damage. But he did his part, and it ends up just being a trade between the two teams.
Yeah, Crown 2 catching Fury out with that gravity field.
So this was a much, much better fight from Chaser. You notice, holds onto the cooldown and then throws out the explosive cast. We get a bit of internet lag there, but it does bounce everyone back into the fight. And Chaser, the thing here is that Expession can't get on Ruler, and the tanks are doing their job. And Gragas, after using that explosive caster, at the point in the game where he doesn't really do damage, doesn't really apply CC, and 3 low members lets you know that Samsung divided up their members as well as they could.
Ruler really did play that team fight impressively well. You could see, yeah, he waited on the edge of that parallel convergence. The GA came back up and instantly hit the Mercurial Scimitar and the Flash to continue kiting Expession and make sure he didn't die.
Just to be so steady in a situation as a rookie. Really impressive to see. Obviously not going to toss the explosive cast onto Guardian Angel Ambition. Elder Drake would be really nice to pair with what was the Baron. Of course, Baron buff will be wearing off in just a couple of seconds.
Game still incredibly even. That 4.5K difference that Longzhu has in 41 minutes. Relatively irrelevant.
Just keep seeing flashes of the brilliance of Samsung's late game team fights. But even this draft for Longzhu hasn't allowed them to pull ahead anywhere near as you might have expected.
Coco here.
They got to make a clear call. They got to take something. They've been so quick to peel off.
Oh, they're going to find him in the brush. Force Coco to actually back off. Gravity Field dropped early on as they get a little bit scared. So Gravity Field and Parallel Convergence down for a few seconds. Elder Dragon still has a lot of HP remaining.
Coco's walked all the way around. They are grouped as 5 now. They don't have to worry about positioning as much.
It's a good situation for Samsung, though. No flank onto their back line.
Elder Drake actually releashed. Now it's back up to 7,000 health. It's starting to burn it down.
There's the... Oh, Fury just going to block the arrow right with his spell shield at the start of this fight. Parallel Convergence not actually going to be triggered, but the Elder Dragon is released. Chrono break in, CuVee has to flash out, but Chaser all alone, focused down by Samsung. Does have the GA, will be coming back to life. And this dragon is still just firing away on the likes of Longzhu. Samsung trying to pull off the big win. CuVee has TP and is recalling.
Come back in. It's such an extended fight. Fury takes the ultimate. Are we going to actually see someone come down?
Yeah, Expession, the next target. He can't get back there. Fury zoned out with the help of the Chaos Storm. Ambition falling very low. Does have his GA available. And that's going to be it. Ashe going to take the Elder Dragon. And now Longzhu. Are they going to stick around for this? Are they going to go on the run? Ambition falling. GA up. Coco stuck in the gravity field. Ambition can get out with a flash after his tunnel, and Samsung with the steal after killing Chaser, but it's Ruler who picks up the final blow, and they will get away with an Elder Dragon against all odds.
Have you ever seen such a titanic fight around a Drake? But that's what something like Elder Drake puts on the map. It felt like it was a fight around a 5th dragon, which with the Infernal Drake stacks might well have been. It's so long. This is a minute and a half into the dance around this Drake. The smite, which at this point is around 900 health, isn't enough. So actually an auto attack from 6 HP takes it down for the Ashe. They pick up 1 exit kill. It's just onto Chaser, but no one dies from Samsung. Veteran shot calling from 2 teams that have veteran shot callers, but Samsung consistently have been on the same page in summer 2016, and they just eke out what is a really big blow in denying the Elder Drake from Longzhu.
And it's also going to be up while the Baron respawns, so this is the big turning point for Samsung.
True damage burn is going to start answering some of the damage that Longzhu innately has.
Yeah, and there's so much poke. Volley, Prey Seeker, Death Ray to apply this true damage burn that Samsung has a lot of potential here just to take some chunks out of their opponent before any kind of engage can happen.
Coco's been sitting at 6 items for a long time, fully built on the Ryze Death Cap as the last build. You don't normally see it. You see the Crown working towards the Lich Bane as final items, but everyone is gearing up for an eventual fight where people will die, which isn't going to be true, but it's going to be long because Guardian Angels are all over the Rift.
Yeah. Big problem, though. Fury and Coco both with flashes down. Also Chaser, and he is their primary form of engage.
Samsung are looking to potentially rush the Baron on spawn. They have a pink ward on it.
Yep, but there's a blue trinket. Will get into the pit, so they know what's going down.
Good
Samsung
damage.
Still just putting down the deeps. Now Chaser comes in, parallel convergence. Chases him off, so we're back to a standstill, but this is fine for Samsung. They can get the true damage poke again.
And worth knowing, they pulled one of the 2 teleports Longzhu had as an advantage away. They forced Expession to react. Now only Ryze has that teleport. Can't even find a scenario to send the Ryze to top. They're going to try to double back on mid, but don't think Samsung going to call this bluff just yet.
No, they have a pink ward coming in, so they'll be able to see if this...
Ruler is obliterating Baron.
Again, using their zoning tools, parallel convergence, but Longzhu not biting. And this is a very large minion wave that we see developed in this top lane. Somebody's going to have to deal with it. Ryze, in the meantime, is pushing down and now teleporting back as the Baron reaches about 50% HP. Arrow flies wide. One less tool there for the likes of Samsung.
Game is on such a knife edge, and Samsung are going to win in this reality. It looks like they're going to get that inhibitor turret. The minions leash away and haven't quite taken down the turret, but it's so low.
Oh no, just a couple
There
more,
it
and
is.
there it is. So many caster minions may be able to take the inhibitor as well. Again, they're just back off, unwilling to commit. At this point in time, Chaser tries to clear out that pink ward, so at least they get something in that pit. Bit of a risk. And the minion wave in mid is actually pushing back towards Longzhu right now.
It'd be a mistake for Longzhu to fight. They do not have flash on Fury. Ruler has flash himself.
And they use 2 TP, so they actually can't clear out the minion wave in the top side right now. And that's what Samsung is banking on. Samsung just playing this dance as long as they can. Here's the engagement, though. Fury going to catch out CuVee with the help of the ultimate W from the Ryze. Now he's got the GA coming back up. CuVee is just going to chrono break now to try and get some of that health back. So no more GA onto the Ekko. Expession now sees his time to go in. Crown has to flash away. Still just the poke, the poke, the poke. And Samsung trying to get time onto this inhibitor. Longzhu has to do this Baron now to equalize.
They cannot get back to defend their inhibitors. They want to make the proactive play. They want to fight now. They want to turn. But the Baron, as far as we can tell, still pretty healthy.
Yeah, turning now. Gravity field is down. Samsung kiting back into this choke. Wraith has to flash to avoid death from Coco. And the volleys just keep on coming through. Meanwhile, Baron's still doing some damage from inside the pit. That inhibitor, for some reason, is still not dead in spite of the number of minions pouring into Longzhu's base.
Feels like Birdman, the League of Legends game. No cuts, only action around objectives. Have to keep going. Don't have any play-by-play, so we have to share a little bit because so much is happening. Longzhu once again turn onto the Baron.
Oh, this is it. They're trying to use Sivir ult is back available right now. So is the explosive cast. Meanwhile, Chaos Storm is so close to coming back up. Arrow now available for Ruler.
And 4,000.
This is going to come down to the very end here. Expession tries to get the back line. Crown does end up dropping the Chaos Storm, but the gravity field right in the middle. And now Ruler has to flash away. Still trying to kite out Expession. Expession alive for the time being.
Fury
GA
full
still
health.
up. CuVee wants to get out. Ambition has his GA. CuVee does not. And he's still attempting to escape right here. Expession's GA is triggered, and that will be a 2-for-0 for Longzhu. They are low, but they can still do this Baron. Ambition has to come down to the bottom side of the map where their inhibitor turret has been destroyed, and it's Longzhu going to eventually, finally, pick up this Baron.
Sum total of the last 10 to 15 minutes, one Elder Drake to Samsung, one Baron over to Longzhu, a couple of kills to Longzhu as well, but it's oh so close. Fought on the knife's edge. Coco gets flash up and just goes all in to take down the backline. And this is the explosive cast you want because Crown has no way to answer it. Dies to start things off. Ruler flashes away, still does damage, but the story here, Fury is full health. And although with the slows and with the maneuverability from Samsung's comp, they don't die. From this point, it was going to be either a wipe or people escaping on low HP. So Baron finally garnered by Longzhu.
Yeah, wow. Well, TP's starting to come back up now for Longzhu. Did get the one up onto Expession, about to have that cooldown ended for Coco. So this has been an incredibly back and forth game. Samsung has just been so diligent in holding on to a game that they really didn't have a whole lot of right to be in.
That's the thing, is that even the comp and early game, Samsung should have been counted out by one of the two, but even with the powers of both combined, they find themselves competitive. They find themselves very much still in the game. 6,000 gold at 50 minutes is certainly in no way an unassailable lead, and 6 items have been achieved on some of these Longzhu members for upwards of 15 minutes.
Scary stuff. Well, this has been Samsung's power this season, though, is even when we thought they would lose, they found ways to come back and win. They team fought incredibly well, played to their win conditions, and just the shot calling around that inhibitor with the Baron was beautiful. Very, very nicely done from Samsung.
Ambition has not died this game despite all the times he's come so close. 0-0-1 doesn't seem impressive, but there's only been 3 kills for the side of Samsung.
They're going to try and go in right now. Irelia's teleport is going to be forced. This should be Samsung just backing out. They got what they wanted, which was the summoner spell.
Also got the explosive cast purely defensively from Chaser, so no more engage left, especially with Coco's splashdown.
No summoners used on the side of Samsung, and they still have a couple key ultimates up in the form of Ekko's Chrono Break and Crown's Chaos Storm.
But maybe Chaser will have the trump card. Flash in about 5 to 10 seconds, ultimate in about 20. This next explosive cast could decide the game. If it's on Ruler, they probably got it.
Yeah, no summoners on Ruler, so he's going to have a tough time answering that. Meanwhile, Poke onto CuVee will force the retreat, and they are going to have to cede this inhibitor to Longzhu Gaming.
Timing actually works out for Samsung. They probably would have lost that inhibitor, whatever happened, but they don't have that window where Chaser has explosive cast to be up in about 2 seconds, and Ruler doesn't have flash. So the next 2 minutes or so, Ruler is as immobile as can be. We'll have to really respect the flash engages from Chaser.
Well, here we stand now. 51 minutes into this game, 1 minute until a second Elder Dragon, and considering that Longzhu has to deal with the top lane far away from the Dragon, that does complicate things for them, maybe forcing them to use Coco's teleport.
I mean, Coco on the Ryze is going to be very good at clearing out waves, especially when he's gone full ability powers. We see some Ryze go 2 tank items, a Spirit Visage, for example, but Death Cap was the 6th item purchased by Coco, so his wave clear will be just fine. For now, though, they're persisting with Irelia top, which really does minimize their options. They should really be rotating Expession down, because Elder Drake number 2 is spawning in 30 seconds.
Baron buff. Like, it has fallen off. Hard to tell if they were actually too far away from the minion wave, but it should be departing shortly.
Looks like Longzhu just don't want to fight for Elder Drake. The fact that Expession hasn't shopped at this point, there isn't the most benefit coming for Samsung. Longzhu are really pushing forward aggressively.
Yeah, it looks like Samsung wants this pick. They have the pink ward. They want to set up this arrow, and they're going to be coming in for a possible flank. And Expession's all on his own. Oh, boy. That could have ended poorly, but Samsung not set up to take advantage of him being isolated.
Being isolated, Ekko's all on his own in the bot, has teleport, but teleport Ekko has always had its own suite of problems when it comes to impacting a team fight, so it needs to be early on that teleport.
Longzhu really committing for an inhibitor, and looks like they may want to trade this for the Elder Dragon.
Elder Drake doesn't give a lot to Samsung. True damage burn plus on 1 stack, and obviously amplifying out of combat movement speeds. Not massive. I feel like Samsung kind of lost the rock, paper, scissors with that particular exchange. But if they win a fight with true damage, then that will be the answer. So fun to see this trade. Inhibitor taken and traded for an Elder Drake with just 1 particular stack for Samsung.
Longzhu also knows that unlike the last time, well, there could actually be a fight around this Baron with 2 minutes up, and that's where that poke may be a major factor again, but they don't bite. They don't actually spend a teleport there either. So they are going to try and just hide in this brush, see if they can make something happen, assuming that Samsung may want to push out this mid lane and then start getting some wards in early around the Baron.
My eyes didn't deceive me. It's 6 items for everyone. I'm including the supports with pink ward slots, so items certainly combined. Ambition really does not want to walk and not respect the brush, because 1 member dying probably means the game is Wraith.
Oh, wow. Gets the ward over the wall. Smells him. And they have to scatter deeper into Samsung's jungle. It's Ekko really having a hell of a time clearing out these super minions with any sort of efficiency.
I think Fury might have to start taking a page, and he does. In fact, as I say it, has sold his boots, going the same route that Loken did in the promotion series. Trinity Force as the final item, so full damage with Karma also. Not going to have an issue with being kited in team fights.
Yeah, different though, the Trinity Force now, so.
True. so going to be a little bit less movement speed, all things considered. But Sivir Karma, I guess with the fight's
That's what makes up for it, though, right?
I guess with the fight's going as long as they are, there really might be scenarios where even with Fleet of Foot and Karma having a pretty low rotation speed up, there will be scenarios where Fury might miss out on auto attacks because of the changes to Trinity Force.
Or die.
That's also bad.
He's not able to kite quickly enough and does actually get CC'd. All right, so we're back over to the Baron dance right now. Quite difficult for Longzhu against the Hawkshot and the Tremor Sense to not be seen when they move into the Baron pit area. Samsung knows what they're going to be up to.
Don't see the match from Ruler. He's sticking with the Swiftness boots, which given Ashe, you probably don't have the flexibility to change out your boots, even at this late stage. Ruler's been so good at kiting in these team fights. We mentioned that despite his oversteps in the previous series, his mechanics are not in doubt whatsoever.
Looks like inhibitor going to be spawning right now, so there will be the minion wave that Ekko is currently on and the one approaching down the lane of super minions, and then that will be it.
How do you kill anyone with all summoners available and just fairly low engage on both sides? It is not trivial to get a pick for either team. Good sustain damage, but not the burst to get someone, so it's a very rotational game. Longzhu going to start the Baron. Here we go again.
Yeah, this is the last wave of pressure, but we also see Ekko coming back. He's going to TP in right to the mouth of the Baron pit. Glacial Fissure already thrown out. And now Pure and Fury trying to use that speed advantage to try and take down the last inhibitor turret right here. Bit of a risk, and there we go. Chaser going to get hit by that arrow. Does have the GA, nothing coming in yet. Adverse gets stunned by the parallel convergence. There's just no follow-up as nobody wants to funnel through that choke against Longzhu and get disrupted by the explosive cast. So Longzhu gives Samsung a jolly run around the map.
Fury will have his ultimate up in about 10 seconds time. It's worth noting that when these rotational plays are enacted, Sivir will lag behind. She does not have the movement speed of Boots 2, and Trinity Force no longer provides movement speed. So there are windows where Fury is very killable on the Sivir.
Longzhu not looking like they actually are going to start this. They're waiting for the super minions right now in that mid lane. Samsung has been forced to the opposite side of the jungle, so they're not able to push up and still contest this Baron. Longzhu has started it, 10,000 HP on the Baron. They're going to try and catch Coco right there. Chaos Storm is going to get dropped early on. Explosive Cast hits everybody from Samsung into a wall. Fury's ultimate back up again and has been burned. Ambition, though, with a recall. Somebody's got to save the Nexus turrets on the side of Samsung, and it looks like it will be Ambition because he does have his ultimate still up to get into the jungle.
And now, amusingly, Samsung kind of want to fight on this particular tunnel because it's right next to Baron. So it's a pretty important thing to protect. Just looking at the minion wave, I don't actually see on the minimap any other tunnels on that particular side of the map, so suddenly he has to walk up.
Well, that's not something that Longzhu knows, however. Coco gonna turn onto this Baron once again. Longzhu really wants this one. Wraith at about 50% HP, same thing with CuVee. They're trying to kite back yet again. Wraith had the Glacial Fissure off cooldown, and the Sivir ult pop for the third time in this engagement.
How many Sivir ults does it take to get a Baron, Monte Cristo?
Quite a few, apparently. CuVee's TP is 50% back already, and he was the one who TP'd in to start this shenanigan.
Coco will answer the minion waves. Worth noting, the minion wave pressure from Samsung has been superior to what Longzhu has been able to do. They got a free top lane inhibitor turret and inhibitor just from minion wave pressure, as in one of the previous Baron standstills that we've had this game.
Looks like we're going to pass the hour mark here. Mid lane inhibitor back up. Viktor running through the jungle.
Sometimes you just have to laugh, I guess.
Keep spirits light at the booth, Papa Smithy. Nice and buoyant atmosphere.
Every time I see these Barons come down to 2,000 health or the first person below their GA, even I have my heart in my mouth a little bit. It's a really, really close game. It'd be exciting to see Longzhu take it down because they played so well in parts of it, but Samsung also have navigated a really tricky draft to get through. You could say, well, just draft better, but the draft they have has been played out very well, irrespective of what they gave over to Longzhu. Minions once again, nicely pruned. Gotta say, Samsung have been excellent at doing this.
And somebody has to deal with the top wave again, just because it is encroaching on the naked inhibitor. And Samsung may be able to force a TP right here. They're certainly going to try.
There's no wards down that are aggressive enough to really get much. Baron down to 9,000.
All right, they forced a TP. That's what they wanted. Are they going to keep doing it? Actually, Samsung, they're looking at it. They should back off. They got the summoner spell. And the minion wave is still pushing into Longzhu's base, so that is a bit of a conundrum. They are going to have to send Expession. It would appear. A little bit hard to tell right now. We can't check ourselves.
I've never seen a game where multiple Barons are decided and kited back from one single summoner being drawn. Once, twice, sure, in a game. But literally, this is upwards of 5 times we've seen these sort of plays. We see another reinitiate.
Yeah, try and go onto CuVee. Bounces it back right into the team. Chrono Break will save him, as well as the Gravity Well put down. Fury in the front line. Has to use the Sivir ultimate. Big hit from the Chaos Storm.
Fury's out of the fight.
Actually is going to move forward into the parallel convergence. Fury low.
He's out of the fight. He needs to find somewhere to heal up from. He can't outrun the gravity field, and every tick was doing a third of his health.
Yep. All right, so here we go. Back into the Baron pit for the umpteenth time. CuVee dashes forward, has that protection, but he is falling very, very low. He has GA, just in case he needs to revive, and he also has his TP up and ready to use. He could also Chrono Break, maybe. Looks like it's about to come off cooldown back in. Nice little delay right there. Fury with full HP. So now it's Longzhu's turn. CuVee has 8 seconds to recall and get back right now with that teleport.
I think he'll have to ult. It's much faster channel time, but nope, they buy him more time.
He did ult, actually.
Okay. So his plan of diving into the back line for at least the next 35 seconds or so has to be abandoned. But if we've learned anything, it's that taking one of these Titanic objectives is more than a trivial task.
All right, so Ambition now, once again, on the Rek'Sai. Back to wave clearing duties since he has ultimate available.
There's like 1,500 gold minimum on every member of Longzhu. They've been item capped for so long. They won the early game. They're only 4,000 gold ahead. But everyone is capped out. And at this point, Pure's like, well, no more wards for you guys. I'm building this large rod.
Get that sweet, sweet Karma AP, baby.
Well, utility scaling now on things like the movement speed means that it'd be relevant.
Oh man, this is
as late game can be. Jeez. I have to feel like a needlessly large rod is woefully inadequate compared to a pink ward. If it was a full death cap maybe, but just a needlessly large rod?
Yeah, I think you might want to wait that one out just a little bit more.
That feel when you have a 75 gold item that's only pipped out just by a 3,700 or whatever gold value item.
Ambition sliding around. Putting down the wards.
Jumping up and down in my chair a little bit because we're so close to something happening. It feels like that's been the story for 25 minutes.
This has been the longest, I think, Baron dance I've ever seen. All right, there's the arrow. Now got to slam into Expession. They try and follow it. Great knockup from Ambition. And there's a further stun onto Expession by Ekko. But they can't get anything with that chain CC. No summoners burned from either side. Everybody holding fast right now, knowing that one flash could be the difference in this game. Elder Dragon is up. We could see a third one. That would be the only time I have ever seen 3 Elder Dragons in one game, Papa Smithy.
Oh, it's certainly on the Rift, and there's only so many things to fight around. Baron has been the beacon for the past 9.5 minutes, but with Elder Drake spawning, we may finally see a trade. I think Longzhu takes Elder Drake as a swap for Baron if that scenario somehow opens up.
Poke coming in from all sides right now. Ambition tunneling out. Get out of Fury's auto attack range. CuVee isolated yet again. But Longzhu pushing Samsung back and turning on to the Elder Dragon. Now, the Hawkshot's going to see that they're not doing it, so a little bit pointless. And it looks like each team, they want their objective, and it's going to be Baron for Samsung and an Elder Dragon for Longzhu.
I think a lot of people will still give the advantage to Baron buff over the objectives, but Longzhu will go for the Elder Drake. I think it's probably the right call, but it is so close comparing these two objectives because the window of time you can actually use this Elder Drake is very narrow.
The other thing that probably came into their decision-making was these minion waves, because the fact that they split and each team had a minion wave going in their direction means that they're not going to be threatened on any kind of naked inhibitor.
But this Elder Drake goes down so quickly, and it was amusing that both the previously prepared minion waves kind of mirrored the buffs that both teams, I guess if you ask them, if you pushed them, would have gone for. So again, Longzhu's buff is much shorter. I believe it's a 1.5 minute duration for an incredible amount of power, don't get me wrong, but a narrow duration and a 1.5 minutes, that's what, a tenth of a Baron dance in this game?
Yeah. Very well said. Our 4-minute Baron dances.
So that duration's already 50%.
Yep.
Samsung can just wait that one out. Their minion waves will continue to push harder, so
I mean, the question here for Samsung is, do you just go ahead and sacrifice an inhibitor or two and then try and end the game on the Baron buff? Because it's a lot of questions right now about how you play the situation. It's such a tough call.
Wait out the Elder Drake buff. That is for certain. You do not want to get in flash ult range for Chaser. If a bounce comes onto Crown, they lose the game. Ruler also. Mission recalling.
Here we go. They're going to put up a nominal defense. Fury is going to block the arrow with the spell shield. Now he's going to come in, and Ruler bounces to the side, but no real good ultimate there from the likes of Chaser. Ambition gets chunked out, falls back. Crown defending him with the zone from the gravity field. They are going to have to lose that inhibitor, though, and they're going to have to lose a second one, too, because so many people need to go back to the fountain.
So once again, Longzhu take down 2 inhibitors. They could not find a way to win the game from here. They need to get to top lane to clear that wave because it is monstrous from Samsung.
Yeah, it's certainly been building up, and you can see Samsung doing all they can to delay them in this process, but they are going to get back there in time no matter what, even if they do have to walk through their own jungle. But Samsung does have a moment here to try and push up.
Wave clear needs to stay in mid. They don't have vision yet that Samsung are going for this aggressive, but they only get the information now. It's very punishable by Samsung. But I see Sivir there now, so much more difficult a task.
Wave clear from Fury, present. So this game probably going to go for a little bit longer right here. There's no real way for either of these teams to win the game, which is why we've seen such an extensive delay. All of the engages have either fallen flat or been stuffed. You can see that arrow has hit a spell shield now on multiple occasions thanks to Fury dashing in front of it.
And now trying to protect their own naked inhibitor. Very difficult to do.
Might be able to at least take one.
All flashes available.
Yeah, CuVee going to be the first target. Fury going very far forward, and that arrow not going to land true. Glacial Fissure has to be used to disengage right now. Samsung trying to kite this one. Meanwhile, Pure coming in. Flash, Q, knock up onto Expession. He's going to get chunked in a major way. Parallel convergence, but Fury actually manages to take out Ruler in the backline with looks like a ricochet, and this is going to be it. Samsung falling left and right. Chaser with the flash body slam, and now it is Longzhu rolling on through. CuVee gets the GA, but a triple kill to finish things off for Fury. Now the TP's coming into the bottom side, trying to match here with the super minion waves. Coco is there. That is definitely going to be the game as Expession joins with the TP as well.
And it must have been that ricochet, Monte Cristo. They were not even screens away from each other. But Longzhu, I have to say, the Karma Death Caps seem to actually be super relevant because their movement speed, continuously reapplying that mantra E, meant that they got that pick. They killed Ruler. 2 immobile carries was too much. We're going to try to see a heroic defense, but nothing that Ambition and Wraith can do. In a titanic clash, Longzhu will win Game 1.
That's right. And they deal Samsung their 3rd straight game loss after they started a perfect 8-0. So Longzhu really rebounding here, holding strong in a tough late game, and their shot calling did not crumble.
That was just such an insane game. I've never seen a game where there was no rising and falling action after about 35 minutes. Everything was a constant 75% of will they go for it, will they turn, will they take it? So often the answer was no, but ironically, one final fight, not around an objective, but just around the top. They got too cute, Samsung, trying to get an answering inhibitor, and it finally opened up a chance for the game to end as Fury puts out 77,000 damage almost
My God.
this game.
Well, that's late game Sivir for you, right? If you can hit the front line, you can hit the back line, and that ricochet crit seemed to make a world of difference there at the end, honestly.
Had so many different ways to customize his item build, went with the Phantom Dancer over the Static Shiv right at the end, but